If there was a way to kill myself in the jail cell, I would have at that point. I was such at a low point. I was actually getting promoted during this time period where I'm ramping up my drugs and alcohol use. I started, compensating in a number of different ways. I make this step of leaving my marriage as this will be the solution to my problem. Something's going wrong with me. It must be my wife.
I think the mind finds a way to rationalize the things that we do. We always want to be right to some degree. So even in our wrongdoings, we feel like, oh, I'm doing the right thing.
In January of 2019, I'm living with my family with 3 beautiful kids. I am on the board of directors for my company. I'm coaching kids sports. Everything's going great. By December of that same year, I'm estranged from my family. I don't have a job anymore. I basically have no friends in my life, and I'm in a jail cell, facing potentially 12 years in prison. I hit my bottom when I was 48.
You hit rock bottom. A lot of people, they hit rock bottom and they stay there. Like, what got you to that place? Like, I have to build myself back up.
The stuff I was doing to manage the gap between my outward success and my inner feeling just consumed and took over my life. Using that as my self-validation and my measure of success in the world. So, I like to refer to it as like, I think I was addicted to more. And as long as I had more and I would feel good about myself, my career was taking off. I was being promoted to head of my team, to the board of directors of my company, making more money than I'd ever thought possible.
A lot of people, they chase out, they want those things that you just described, the promotions, the mountaintop lifestyle.
By the time I got to that jail cell, I was really in a mental conundrum. I was in a psychosis.
Why do you think suffering makes people more passionate?
That's like $1 million question.
Welcome to another episode of the Words of Encouragement podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Made Different. Today I got a special guest with me. But before I get into that, please don't forget to like this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Today's guest, man, he's a man who went all the way to the bottom and refused to stay there. For years, he lived life most people dream about: success, money, family, career, all the boxes checked. But when the inside of him collapsed, none of that could hold him together. He fell into a dark night of the soul that took him through depression, PTSD, addiction, psychosis, and complete ego death. Yet somehow, in the darkness, something awakened. He's the founder of The Way Healing. He found a deeper identity, one rooted not in doing, but in being. Not in achievement, but in an authentic aliveness. Today, he serves from a place of compassion, curiosity, presence, and real love. His mission is to guide others who find themselves lost, disconnected, and burnt out, and help them return home to their true selves. Please let me welcome Chris Calflesh. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great, Frankie. Thank you for that kind introduction. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, man. So just reading about your story, man, it's I find similarities to my story in there. But before we get into that, can you just tell the people where you're from and what set your foundation, your upbringing?
Yeah, sure. Um, I'm up here in Canada and originally from Toronto. And I guess I'll start with my origin story there because it does sort of start there. I was born in 1970 to effectively teenage parents. My mom had just turned 18 and my dad, I think, was still 18. And I was sort of, call it a high school accident. And my parents by grace, they stayed together. My mom finished high school with me. Then my dad and my mom went to university together. They lived in the student dorms. They raised me. And when my mom graduated university, she put my dad through law school. And so there's this foundation of sort of, struggle and fight in my background. But that it ended up really taking a toll on my mother. And almost as early as I can remember, my mother was an alcoholic, and quite a serious alcoholic too. I mean, if there's any different kind, but and that's pretty much since I can remember, from the age of 6, 7, or 8, all the way to when she passed away when I was 29. And there was tremendous amount of emotional abuse, psychological abuse, and sometimes, but not as frequently as physical abuse, that comes from living in a house with the chaotic household of an alcoholic parent. And my dad is just a wonderful man who was doing his best just to try to like build a career and make it, and do all those things for his family. So oftentimes I was really left isolated with my mother, and
Mm,
growing up in that environment. So that's sort of the
yeah.
background of my experience. And I'll just add one more thing about my early childhood, is that what that embedded in me was, there's a couple ways you can go when you're in an alcoholic family, and mine was this root of achievement.
Mm,
Recognizing I'm not being noticed, I'm not maybe not getting the love that I'm looking for from my mother, who's incapable of it because of her disease. I went on realizing, hey, if I'm really good at academics, or sports, I get noticed. And around the time I went to high school, I started being that kid who would have the highest marks in the school all the time, and
yeah.
that went on into university, and that went on into work, and that went on into everything. I went into this mode of overachievement, working harder than everybody else, and getting up earlier than everybody else, and just putting my head down and just making it all happen.
So do you think so you lean on that as a crutch to for love from your mother, or like what was that? Why you think you delved into that so hard?
Yeah, when I look back at it, try to make sense of it all and work with others, it's this idea that, I have these basic needs growing up. Like, we're sort of born pure into this world, and what we need to
Yeah.
survive from our childhood to be an adult. And one of those things we need is to belong and to be loved. And if you're in an environment where, that may not be happening authentically, it's like, well, how do I get that? How do I maybe get noticed and get love from other people? Well, this power that comes from achievement is one of those mechanisms that when you do it,
Yeah.
you start feeling special. And so learn early in life that, the only way I'm going to survive and fit in is if I'm the best at everything all the time. And so that
Mm,
became like a defense mechanism, and a way of being for me to get the love I needed in life as I look back at it.
wow, wow. Yeah, I've heard some people say they didn't get the love at home, so they dived into doing overachieving in school and these things because the teachers would praise them, the teachers would get them that love. And that's amazing because some people join gangs, some people find other things to do. You found something that was somewhat positive, but it became a negative once you got older. So how does that transition of achieving in your career, achieving all these goals, and like you said, you had success and early on, family, everything that people will deem as, oh man, this guy's successful. How does that transition from you saying, okay, I have all these things, when did it feel empty inside? Or was there a trigger that made it feel like you were empty? Or,
Yeah, and that's a great question. And the thing is, I can't put my finger on any particular trigger. It's almost just like, um, so it was in my late 40s where I hit my bottom when I was 48. We'll come to that. But it was sort of probably around my mid 40s where these feelings of discontent and disease started showing up. Probably up to that point, like, I mean, I had a great job in the financial industry. I loved going to work every day. I used to jump out of bed at, early in the morning and get to work, and get on with it. A great family life. Coached all my kids' sports. Was a really active dad. Like, just involved in all of it. I think, super, super happy and fulfilled until probably about 40. And then something just started happening in there, and I can't put a finger on when it happened, but it's at a time when, in fact, my career was taking off. I was being promoted to head of my team, to the board of directors of my company, making more money than I'd ever thought possible, and having a life that was beyond my wildest dreams. As all that was happening at that time, so the outside, I like to say, was looked like a 10 out of 10, and my inside was starting to feel like a zero and just starting to go lower.
mm,
And I started, compensating in a number of different ways. Like, I got really into extreme sports, started running marathons, then ultra marathons, and
yeah,
then I got into boxing. And all while doing that, alcohol started, which had always had been in my life in a sort of a weekend warrior type thing, started coming in more and more, and
Yeah.
then drugs started coming in to help manage the alcohol, and then it just this big crescendo to the point where my life just got unmanageable because the stuff I was doing to manage the gap between my outward success and my inner feeling just
Mm.
consumed and took over my life.
Wow. Wow.
Listen, you don't always need answers. Sometimes you just need to be held up in prayer. This is a space for people who are doing the best even when it feels unseen. For the ones who are tired, hopeful, uncertain, faithful, and human, all at the same time. We come together simply to pray and encourage one another. No fixing, no spotlight, no pressure to explain your story. Just a quiet reminder that you are seen, heard, and not forgotten by. If life feels heavier than usual, you don't have to walk through it by yourself. You're welcome to join our prayer group. Just comment prayer, send a DM, or use the link provided when you're ready. Peace.
Man, that's deep because a lot of people they chase after they want those things that you just described. The promotions, the mountaintop lifestyle, right? You get to the mountaintop, you realize this is not it. So you start doing other curriculars. And even the marathons, people would be like, that's not a bad thing. Like you running a marathon. Like I wish I could run a marathon. I'm stuck at home eating cheeseburgers. So it's I guess the perspective of how you looked at it back then versus now, what is the difference you would say?
Yeah, I think, and what I didn't realize, and all this, again, all those things are good. Like they're exercise is great for you. Being successful and working hard, that's good as well. It's how I was relating to it. I was unconsciously using that as my self validation and my
Mm,
measure of success in the world. So, I like to refer to it as like I think I was addicted to more. And as long as I had more, and I would feel good about myself. So I got that first job promotion. Okay, well, there's the next one that I got to go for now. Or I'm making this much money. Well, I can make more, and that worked as long as there's that mount to climb. But when I got to that place where, um, I mean, it's a combination of I already had enough, and there wasn't a lot more to go, as well as the more just started to have a less and less of an impact on me. It wasn't making me feel as good anymore, and that's the place where I needed something else to fill that sense of accomplishment or that dopamine hit that more was giving me, and it
yeah.
ended up being these extracurriculars.
Wow. Wow. That's profound, man. That's profound. I think so many people, you know, especially people who don't have the more that you're talking about, they want that more. And when you get it, you get that dopamine hit, you feel good, and then you figure out what's the next goal, what's the next achievement I could
Yeah,
get, what's the next thing that I could go, be successful at. And here you are knocking off all these things on your list, and you get to this place where it's just like that's not enough. Now comes the alcohol, the drugs, and describe that a little bit. Like what what did you feel during those moments? Did it take you rock bottom, or like did it make you really feel good, or did you still have that sense of emptiness when you did it? How long was that time span from the drugs and alcohol to finally realizing like even this not is not doing it. Like something is not I'm still not fulfilled. Like how long was that?
yeah, and again, my background with alcohol and drugs is an interesting one to begin with because I grew up in this alcoholic family. I was sort of, grew up saying, well, that'll never be me. The one thing I'll make sure about that's not going to be me. Right. And
Mm,
that's and recognizing too earlier on that, hey, there's quite a correlation between alcoholism in the family, that I'm
yeah.
a high risk of alcoholism. So I didn't drink much in high school, barely at all. And then I got to university and I started drinking a little bit there and sort of more binge drinking. But I was graduated at the top of my class and I ended up getting a master's in statistics, which is it's a hard discipline.
Yeah.
Carried that through into my working life. And, I think the first time I even tried a drug like marijuana was when I was 28, because I was so concerned about this addictive
Yeah.
tendency. Somewhere in my I think my 40s, when all the success started coming, I think I convinced myself, oh, I've passed this stage where I can become an alcoholic, so I'm safe. It's okay. And
Mm,
it just started showing up in my life just a little more frequently. It moved from, maybe, the weekends to during the week occasionally, and it just kept picking up. And I think, again, it's a slow, progressive nature of drugs and alcohol where started using them slowly and it was providing some relief, like
yeah.
an outlet from, oh man, these feelings that are in the background that are disturbing me. I have a couple drinks or something like that. Oh, that they're more manageable. I feel better now. And as time went on and these feelings got more intense, that I would match it with more and more alcohol and drugs eventually. And of course, with anything, there's only so much place you get to when the whole life falls apart around you.
Yeah.
But it took a long time, man. There was like, I'd really say that there's the last 2 years of my life where it was really picking up in a way that it's like, if I look back at it now, I was clearly an alcoholic, I was clearly an addict, but I was hiding it from everybody and
Mm,
successfully hiding it. I was actually getting promoted during this time period where I'm ramping up my drugs and alcohol use. And again,
yeah.
to this
Wow.
crazy mind I'm developing, I'm saying, oh, I can make
Yeah.
this all work. I've got the
Yeah.
secret formula here to manage my feelings. I get promoted. It's all good. And what can go wrong?
Man. Wow. 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 That's interesting, man. Because I think the mind finds a way to rationalize the things that we do. We always want to be right to some degree. So even in our wrongdoings, we feel like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. you know. And that's amazing that you said that, because I definitely went through a period where I felt like that. Everything I was doing, I was kind of hiding it from certain people, my family, my parents, whatever. And they didn't know I was successfully hiding those things, but I'm able to do what I wanted to do. So they don't know this is my personal secret. The people that know, the ones that don't, they don't. You said in your one of your biographies that things started getting downhill. What was that turning point like? Did your family find out? Like, you know, what
You know,
turned for you? What did you
yeah,
just go off the deep end or?
yeah. I think it's like it's very much self-inflicted at first, and much like you said, it's like, oh man, it's crazy to look back at how much my mind was this self-justifying machine. And I've come to recognize that's the nature of the disease of addiction and alcohol. It's like I wasn't only lying to everybody else, I was mostly lying to myself. Like I
Yeah.
was believing the story I was telling myself. Like literally, I would think of myself as like the most honest person in the world, but I don't think if my lips were moving, I was probably lying at that stage. Hiding all this stuff from people. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but it all really came to a head quickly for me in about just the end of 2018. Again, stuff because I'm so engaged in like this, so much drugs and alcohol in my life. I'm managing it so much, like, and I'm hiding so much. And, now I'm not, I'm, I think it's affecting me mentally. I'm not sleeping as much. I'm starting to miss work, all these other things. Um, but I'm looking for other things to blame besides drugs and alcohol or me. And so it starts by, I'm finding faults, all sorts of faults on my marriage. And
Mm,
I make this step of leaving my marriage as this will be the solution to my problem because something's going wrong with
mm,
me. It must be my wife. Of course,
yeah.
it wasn't my wife. It was me. But that's the process I start. So I leave my family, I leave my marriage, and I have the kids half the time. Um, and we're working through this. And then a few months later, I'm the board of directors of my company, and the CEO comes to me and says, "Chris, we can tell you're struggling, we think it must be this divorce you're going through, or all this other stuff. Maybe a leave of absence would be a good idea for you to help sort it out." Like that, hey, that sounds like a great idea. Now, in the back of my mind, it's like that's more opportunity to drink and do drugs, right? Like it's like that's sort of what the little voice in one shoulder is saying, and the other one's saying, "Okay,
Yeah.
you're going to go get help."
Yeah. Yeah.
And ultimately that, I was not an acceptable. So that failed. I even went to a treatment center in there,
Mm,
but I wasn't ready for it, and that failed. I ended up not going back to work. And if I'll sum it all up to really put an exclamation point on it, in January of 2019. I'm living with my family with three beautiful kids. I am on the board of directors for my company. I'm coaching kids sports. Everything's going great. By December of that same year, I'm estranged from my family.
Mm.
I don't have a job anymore. I basically have no friends in my life, and I'm in a jail cell facing potentially 12 years in prison. Um, Initially, that's the bottom. That's how fast drugs and alcohol took me down from that place where it became completely unmanageable for me.
Wow. That sounds like at the top of the mountain, and then it's an avalanche. Just take you down all the way to the bottom in 1 year. Like all these things happen.
Yeah.
So you hit rock bottom. A lot of people, they hit rock bottom and they stay there. Like, what got you to that place? Would be like, I have to build myself back up and fight for my family, fight for the things that I love, and fight for God. Like, what got you to that place? Was it sitting
Yeah.
in a jail cell or?
Yeah. There's a part of there's like I was I'd say the word grace for sure. I was by the time I got to that jail cell, I was really in a mental conundrum. I was in a psychosis, and I mean I was borderline paranoid schizophrenic. I thought the whole world's out to get me.
Mm.
Everything ever produced on the internet was all directed at me. Like books on my bookshelf would be rewritten with messages. I had that kind of rumination going on in my head, and so I was in a really bad mental place. And I remember being in this. I was in this local jail cell for 3 days before I was able to go see the um, the judge to see what was going to happen next. And I didn't know. Um, but I recently got I had started exploring sort of some mindfulness and meditation practices just prior to this book. And I remember sitting in that jail cell, feeling, if there is a way to kill myself in the jail cell, I would have at that point. I was such at a low point. Um, but absent that, I think, what else am I going to do? And I just remember sitting there and thought, you know what I'll do? I'm just going to meditate. And I just started repeating my children's names over and over and over again. And I basically did that for like 3 days. And I remember at the end of that, I just started feeling some calmness having been removed from it all. I was fortunate when I got out of the jail cell that the judge understood the disease of addiction and alcoholism and gave me the opportunity to go directly to a treatment center and try to get rehabilitated. And so I went to a treatment center for 3 months. And this is where, I would just say I experienced grace. I got to this place, got went through the intake, met everybody. It was just such an emotional day, and I remember finally getting to my bedroom on my own, and I had this bag of books they gave me. And again, I was just sitting there thinking, like, man, I think this is it for me because everything I do just ends up hurting more people. I'm hurting my kids. I'm hurting my loved ones. I'm hurting everybody that cares about me, and
Yeah.
I don't know what I can do to carry on. And I put my hand in the bag and I pulled out the book, and it was this is called the Big Books of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was one of the many books in this bag, and I just started reading it. And I started reading the stories at the start, and I'm like, man, this sounds just like me. And I'm in a bit of a psychosis, so I'm convinced now that there's this book that's been put in my bag that's like about me, that's written in
Yeah.
1930s language. And I go check my roommate's book, and it's the same. So I'm like, okay, this is a real
Yeah.
book. Like that's how crazy I was.
Listen, you don't always need answers. Sometimes you just need to be held up in prayer. This is a space for people who are doing the best even when it feels unseen. For the ones who are tired, hopeful, uncertain, faithful, and human, all at the same time. We come together simply to pray and encourage one another. No fixing, no spotlight, no pressure to explain your story. Just a quiet reminder that you are seen, heard, and not forgotten by. If life feels heavier than usual, you don't have to walk through it by yourself. You're welcome to join our prayer group. Just comment prayer, send a DM, or use the link provided when you're ready. Peace.
But I literally I read the first pages of this thing, and I sat there, and just a calm came over me, and I really heard this voice or a knowing or something that just said, "You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay if you just accept the fact that your thinking is not going to get you out of this thing."
Mm.
Your thinking got you here. Now, it might have gotten you all those other shiny things on the outside with the money and this and that, but it also
Yeah.
got you here wanting to kill yourself. Stop, get out of your own way. Stop thinking and let God in.
Mm.
Let spirit take you over and start trying to foster that intuition. Try to foster your connection with spirit and see what happens next. And that was my big surrender moment when I surrendered to my higher power, which is God, and that was the start of complete rehabilitation for me.
Wow. That's big, man. Thankfully you didn't take your life and you're here today with us.
Yeah,
Um, you have your family back?
now it's a missing part of my life still, man. It's like I have, as part of this, just still don't have. I'm still resurfacing communication with my children and my ex-wife. I write them
Yeah.
letters every couple weeks, and I know they get them. Um, and we're I think we're moving towards that point in time when they're back in my life, but it's still work in progress for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's understandable, takes time for them to
It does.
heal. And yeah, man, I'm praying that you do get them back soon. Um,
Thank you.
wow, that's a powerful story, man. Um, you mentioned in one of the brothers, you talk about the ego death. Um, I'm guessing that what you just described, but for the people that's trying to understand it, I might go through your program. Describe what the ego death is.
Yeah, it's you know I look at it this way: is that we're all born into this world, these pure vassals of unconditional love, right? That's what we are. We're unconditional love. And then we have to survive. We have to survive our families. We have to survive our communities, our countries, being bullied, big sisters and little brother, like all this stuff is all part of this thing we have to survive. We build this ego around ourselves or a persona to make it, to get to this
Yeah.
place, whatever that looks like. Um, in our society, though, we don't have any rituals anymore that they used to have where you become of age and the village comes in and you have a rites of passage where, hey, you get to take that ego off and you get to become your true nature and go into your true purpose. It's like
Mm,
a snake shedding its skin.
yeah.
In my culture in particular, where I grew up, it's like, oh no, that thing that I built up to survive, that's actually my identity. That's who Chris
Mm,
is. He's this overachiever. He's this, never stops. He's all these things. And like I was using that to survive, man. That was a fear-based survival mechanism that I just kept going through my whole life. And for me, the ego death is when I to that that persona, that ego runs its end, to its course, and mine did. Mine got me to a place that my next move was going to be a jail or an institution or death, unless I let go of that identity, unless I like killed that ego in a sense. And
mm,
that's the work I then undertook for the next several years, and it's what I work with clients on, trying to understand what were the attributes of that ego, like
yeah.
how does it operate, what is its fears, what are its limiting beliefs, and can I let all that stuff go, because none of it's true.
Yeah.
None of it's true. That's not my identity. My identity is unconditional love, and can I take that out to the world now and make something with it?
Mm. That's man, that's one I love that particularly because that's what I represent. Mr. Made Different. That's what I represent is to, strip myself of the old identity that, the labels that people put on me, the labels I put on myself, when just growing up and, trying to fit into certain boxes or just trying to fit into certain groups, whatever it is that we attach ourselves to a lot of times, for comfort, but it's really not who we are. We were made in the image of God. So,
Yeah.
and God is love. So unconditional love is that I love how you break that down, man. Um, you said you went from doing, overachieving to being. For somebody trying to figure out, okay, I'm doing all this stuff. How do I just be? What does being look like to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And there's doing in the being, right? And it comes down to a little bit about who is it that's
Mm,
doing the stuff in the world. And if we're in this place of just human doing, or when I was in this place, I can only really speak to my own experience because that's where I'm the subject matter expert.
yeah.
I was busy doing, for the sake of doing it. Listen, the template was I'm supposed to go out and achieve all these things, make all this money, um, live this sort of life, belong to these groups, and I was focused on getting that stuff done. I wasn't paying any attention to what's the character of the person doing that. That was coming along for the ride, right? And for the most part, that character was okay. But I didn't have a set of values or character associated. When things started getting rough, I didn't have to lean on. I just kept on the doing, which involved bringing in drugs and alcohol and other coping mechanisms in. And when I say it's like the focus now is, I recognize that, yeah, I had a life of doing and achieving, not a life of being. And now I flip that around. And the most important question I ask myself every day when I wake up or when I face anything is, Chris, who do you choose to be in what's going on right now? Who do you choose to be? And if I choose to be compassionate, empathetic, and loving and forgiving, well, then the actions will follow from that. Will flow from that. In whatever vocation I'm getting involved in or whatever I choose to do, as long as I've picked my character, now I'm in this realm of human being that's going to now do what needs to be done. That's in front of me.
Mm. When I speak, I hear, fruits of the spirit, joy, patience, love, kindness, gentleness. That's what I hear. You picking out the fruits of God. So
Yeah,
that's amazing, man. What in your past? I want to phrase this the right way. What in your past life that you had to completely reject and completely let go of, and what are some things that you have to carry today? Like what are like? Because I'm pretty sure you didn't let go of everything. You probably still want to achieve stuff, but identifying, oh, I need to let that go versus that could stay. Like, what are some things that you let go, and what are some things you let stay?
it's a great question. I'm going to answer it this way. The biggest change that I've undergone is when I recognize what it is I'm actually seeking or what it is I actually want in life. And I recognize now what I truly value and is the most important thing to me is peace with myself, peace with my fellows. That's the most important thing that I want to protect.
Yeah.
That's the path I want to be on. So whatever gets in the way of that are the things that I'm willing to let go of. And the things that don't get in the way of that, I'll hold on to. Um, but it leads to this place where, we talked about earlier, you can money and a good job and a good work ethic and exercise. None of these are bad things. It's just if I get attached to them,
Mm.
they become problems because they're going to pull me away from peace. They're going to pull me away from who I want to be because I'm chasing and grasping to them. And so what I've learned to do in this is to really let go of the attachment to those things. And if they're there, great. If they're not, great. Do I have peace? Am I in conflict with my surroundings? Am I in this place where I can unconditionally love everybody? If that's the case, that's where I want to be. And I can have all those things with it or not. That's the most important thing is, am I this person I want to be in life?
Mm. Yeah, that's deep. That's because with all these things, you didn't have the peace. You don't have all the successes, but you
That's
didn't
it.
have that
No
inner
peace.
peace. Man.
And
So the people,
I,
go ahead.
I was going to say, and this is sort of the leap of faith that I inadvertently took, but now I embody it as my life. Is if I can find peace, if I can find that frequency of unconditional love and joy of peace, if I can achieve that in myself by going inside, by working on myself, with time, the outside will match. The outside will match. And so if I put myself on that place, then it's going to pull everything into my life that's also in that same state, in that same frequency. And so that's what I found. There's a really rough couple of years in there where I'm just doing this work on myself, and the outside of me is like a dumpster fire. Like life isn't getting better on the outside for about a year or 2 years. And then
Mm.
at 2 years, something suddenly started changing. And, a new woman's coming into my life. I'm remarried. I got remarried a couple of years ago. And I have three beautiful stepchildren. Um,
Congrats.
uh, I ended up going back to school and doing all these amazing things in psychology and coaching and things like that, which I love doing, and I get to help other people now. And a lot of this sort of wealth and fellowship and everything else has come back into my life without me actually even trying to achieve it or grasping for it. I truly believe I have this faith. It's because I've I've oriented myself to love and to peace and forgiveness. And now the universe is bring all of that into my life. God's bringing that to my life.
Wow. Wow. I love that, man. I love that. I think most people we try to get the outer versus going inside. You know, we don't fix inside, or because when you're a child, you know, you go into the world breaks you. You know what I mean? And then as an adult, you take that broken child and then you try to patch it up with all these things from the outside, all these, you know, glitz and glamour, quote unquote success things, successful looking things. But really you need to go back and fix that child that's broken inside. And that's what I hear from you when you talk is that, hey, I'm fixing the child that's broken in there. So yeah, I love that, man. So talk about your program a little bit. I know you said you do coaching now. What does that process look like for somebody that wants to sign up to your coaching program?
Yeah, it's like this, much like, I would say my story and the story of someone who runs through addictions is this extreme version of what can happen. But, effectively in life, all of our problems of our own making in some way or another. And a lot of them stem from this conditioning that you even referred to as like, society really orients us towards this, get the external out looking right, get the outside right. Don't worry about the inside. And that that will run its course into a place where people will find themselves with some sort of I know something's missing. I can feel it. I'm feeling depressed. I'm not present for my relationships. I'm not showing up for my kids or my partner the way I want to be, but I can't figure out what's missing because I appear to have the outside right. And so I want to work with these people to go through a similar process that I went through, is to go in and look at your inside. What's your conditioning? How are you acting in this world? What are these sort of fears that you're not even aware of from your past, your limiting beliefs that may be actually driving everything you do in an unconscious way? Can you look at them? Can you do some work to dismantle them? And then finally, we can do a bunch of work on terms of, you know, what shows up for you as purpose that you haven't considered because you've been so driven by this conditioning. And can you now orient yourself towards that a bit more? And in doing that over time, and it doesn't take a lot of time, people suddenly start finding a whole bunch more relief in their life. Like the
Yeah,
outside world might not even change a whole lot. Like it might
yeah.
just be tweaks here and there, but it's the inside is radically transforming, and suddenly they're present for their families and they're enjoying their jobs more, and they're excelling in all areas of their life. And it's because they know who they are now and they
Mm,
know why they're doing what they're doing.
yeah, I love that. There's this quote that comes to mind as you were speaking. I'd rather be at, I don't remember who said this. I think Nipsey Hussle said it, but I think he got it from somebody else. It's I'd rather be at peace within myself and at war with the world than be at peace in the world and war in myself. I think a lot of people, they look for the peace on the outside. Like, man, you know, if I have this car, people will like me more. If I have this job, people don't respect me. If I have this position, or if I'm married to whatever, they're gonna respect me more. But inside, they're having this internal battle, constant, and that battle doesn't die down at all. You know, sometimes you go to sleep and it's still there. You know what I'm saying? You wake up, it's still there. But at times, you know, if you're at peace with yourself, you know, the battle with the world is not always there. You know, until you step outside, somebody has something to say. You may address it, you may not, you know, because you got a peace within you. You like, it's not even that serious, you know. So that's profound, man.
Listen, you don't always need answers. Sometimes you just need to be held up in prayer. This is a space for people who are doing the best even when it feels unseen. For the ones who are tired, hopeful, uncertain, faithful, and human, all at the same time. We come together simply to pray and encourage one another. No fixing, No spotlight, no pressure to explain your story. Just a quiet reminder that you are seen, heard, and not forgotten about. If life feels heavier than usual, you don't have to walk through it by yourself. You're welcome to join our prayer group. Just comment prayer, send a DM, or use the link provided when you're ready. Peace.
Why do you think suffering makes people more compassionate?
That's like $1 million question, right? And that's there's, you know, Carl Jung, famous psychotherapist. I'm a big fan of his work. He makes this claim that there's um, no coming to consciousness, higher conscious, without suffering.
Mm,
Right? This idea, and I'll use that. There's like a Christian analogy. Like the only way is through the cross, right? And in a sense, I've come to understand that as being um, without you work, we get conditioned as kids to go along with it and follow this sort of this follow the path of our ego, follow the path of society. And even if it's not really working, it's not really our true mission. I don't think we've been put on earth here to make widgets and climb mountains, right? Like, and
yeah,
just achieve and collect a whole bunch of money and save it. That's probably not why we're here if we stop and think about it. But that's the program that we have. That's what everybody else is doing or going along with it. And unless something goes wrong with that, unless we're feeling some sort of discomfort with that, it's very unlikely to change it, because that's where the momentum is. It's what everybody else is doing. We want to belong. We're not going to change. Something almost has to happen in our lives that creates enough discomfort that we say, I can't go on with this anymore. I need to change. And so that suffering becomes the prerequisite to make a shift in our consciousness. I mean, suppose some people get, that wasn't my story, was able to do without it. I was too
yeah.
comfortable. It was only when I got really uncomfortable that with
That's
enough suffering that I decided to change my life. And mine was like at the bottom. And that's why those rock bottoms become so important. And that's why a lot of recovered alcoholics and addicts go on to live very big sort of spiritual lives and getting helping all sorts of people and changing the world in some sense.
yeah, yeah. They said I heard this quote recently too, that a life without suffering leaves no space for God. You know, if your life is perfect, like you feel like you don't need God. You feel like, I don't need to have God in my life because everything is great. So once I think that suffering comes in and you down bad or you locked up for however many years, I think that's a time people, seek God, which is unfortunate because all God wants is a relationship with us.
Yeah.
But that relationship comes from the suffering that we go through, and feel like I've done everything that I could. Like you said earlier, my thoughts have got me thus far. It's not going to get me it's not going to change the situation. I need intervention. And a lot of times that intervention comes from God. So,
Yeah. I mean, there's, if you look at story of saints, it's what is a saint if it's not someone who has found joy in the face of suffering?
yeah,
That's almost every story of a saint, is they've had intense suffering in life, but then they found the joy of God within that suffering. It wasn't that's how they got there. That is very much the definition of how we find God, through our suffering. That's how he finds us.
that's amazing, man. If you could download one mindset into every young man, what would it be? Or every man, period.
Yeah, it's this idea that the most important thing and the most internal thing in your life is your character and your values. That's everything else. When you die, is not coming with you. It's going to turn to dust. But your character is going to go on with you for eternity. And that's the thing to value. That's the thing to protect. And if you get your character right and you find that character, everything else in your life will work out. And it's the opposite of sort of what you're going to be, is that we're conditioned with. We're conditioned to achieve. We're conditioned to collect. We're conditioned to acquire, and not pay too much attention to our character. But if we go and make that our priority, trust that everything will work out. That's my big advice. Know yourself.
I love that. I love that. Man. All right, we're gonna jump into the lightning round.
All right.
Um, a book that changed your life.
Yeah, it was a book called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And it's especially the story of a guy who starts meditating at a very, very young age, and he just surrenders. He surrenders spontaneously, but in doing so, and in the surrender, and saying yes to everything that just shows up in his path, um, his life becomes just massively huge. And it came at a time when I was in the early stages of surrender, not knowing where it was going to take me. But then I read his story and said, "Oh, surrender can take you to the place I want to get to." So it was very influential for me.
What's a daily non-negotiable? Something you have to do every day.
I have to meditate every day for at least 15 minutes and usually more.
What's a lie you had to unlearn?
That I needed to achieve something to be worthy.
Mm,
I know that I am worthy just for being alive.
mm, man, that's powerful. That's powerful. I love that. Something you're still healing from.
For sure, loss of relationship and the hole that's put in my heart from my the disconnection from my biological children, as well as some old friends that have not come back into my life. I love them all, and I cause them all great pain uh, in my struggles, and so um, that's something I'm still healing from and will continue to heal from and look to make right one day.
What's your current season in life teaching you?
Oh, current season in life teaching me patience, man. It's like this is the thing I'm really understanding is radical patience.
Yeah,
I've learned now that if I the hardest this is this big one for me too. The hardest thing in life to do is to sit back and just let it come to you and not have to go out and make it happen. And it's again, it sounds so at odds with what our society teaches us, but for me, that's a real spiritual lesson that I have learned, and I believe it's true. So that radical patience, that if I just stay in my character, I keep trying to foster a life of peace. It all comes to me on God's time, not my time.
yeah. I think I'm in that same learning phase right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Just not because we come from such just go getter mentality. You know, you got to make it happen versus it. You know, it happening for you. And I think a lot of times, you know, that damages us. You know, without us realizing, like, if I got to make everything happen, then when it stops happening, who am I when everything stops happening? You know, and
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I don't know,
that's
and man, I don't know the plan, man. My 3 pound brain doesn't know the plan of creation. So what am I doing? It
exactly. The last time you cried and why?
was yesterday. I run a men's group, um, and we meet on Thursdays. And one of the men, I just he just I don't want to get into details of it because of his privacy, but he just read a really um, heartfelt letter that he wrote um, to someone that he had hurt inadvertently in his life, and it was just a beautiful act of transformation from a man moving from this place of guilt and shame and into courage, willingness, and love, and it just brought me to tears.
That's good. Most over most overrated advice you hear often.
Most oh man, that's a tough question. Most overrated advice. Getting what you want is going to bring you happiness.
Mm,
Getting what, yeah, I think that's it. Like this idea that um, that if we set our goals to what we want,
Yeah.
and then we achieve them, it's going to bring us what we're looking for. And I don't believe it does. Jim Carrey has this famous quote that he goes, "I hope everyone, finds the fame and money they're looking for, so they can realize that's not what they wanted after all."
Mm, mm. Yeah, I love that, man. That's powerful. All right, that was the end of the lightning round.
Right.
This part is usually not a question; it's more of a, you just leaving a statement, words of encouragement for the younger version of yourself. So think back to when you were 18 years old. What words of encouragement would you leave to that 18-year-old version of yourself?
Yeah. Just, I guess the if I can go back and like almost parent myself at that point, it's just to remind myself or let myself know that, you are loved, you're enough, and you are worthy just the way you are. You don't have to do anything else to prove that to yourself or to anybody else. That you're just, you're here in the image of God, and you're here as a human being just to experience the world. Enjoy it and be at peace with it.
Got you. Got you. Man, Chris, I appreciate it, man. Please tell the people where to find you, what your business is about, where they could get help if they need it from you, and what the experience will be like.
Yeah. My business is called The Way Healing, and you can find us on www.theway-healing-com and offer transformational life coaching. We have run some men's groups. My wife's also in these practices as well. We run some online groups for couples. We run retreats at our property here in Bone Island in BC, and so come check us out. And if you heard anything that resonates with you, reach out and we'll have a chat.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so I usually end off in a prayer. I don't know if you want to pray us out or you want me to do it. It's up to you.
I'll let you do it, Frankie. I'm interested to hear your prayer.
Okay. All right. Um, let's bow our heads to pray. Father God, we come to you today on another episode of the Words of Encouragement podcast. Father God, we just ask for your blessings, your continued mercy, your continued grace. We ask that you please send healing for our families, our loved ones, and please renew our relationship that we may have lost along the way. Renew our friendships that we may have lost, and, to create more territory for us to impact people in the world with your healing, with your love. And the more thing that we're here for is to spread love, to spread your love unconditionally around the world, Father God. I ask for favor for my guest today, Chris, and for his family and everything that he's been through, and just the continued renewing of his mind that he's going through, and the transformation that he's impacting in the world, people he may come across. Father God, we pray for continued guidance. We just want to thank you for everything that we've been through thus far, and the continued guidance that you take us on this journey of life. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
Chris, man. Yes, sir. No problem. So yeah, we'll talk soon. And to the people out there, man, stay encouraged and understand that this journey of life is going to have ups and downs. But once you find yourself, you'll be at peace with yourself. Peace.
Peace. Well said. Thanks, Frankie.
Listen, you don't always need answers. Sometimes you just need to be held up in prayer. This is a space for people who are doing the best even when it feels unseen. For the ones who are tired, hopeful, uncertain, faithful, and human, all at the same time. We come together simply to pray and encourage one another. No fixing, no spotlight, no pressure to explain your story. Just a quiet reminder that you are seen, heard, and not forgotten by. If life feels heavier than usual, you don't have to walk through it by yourself. You're welcome to join our prayer group. Just comment prayer, send a DM, or use the link provided when you're ready. Peace.
Thank you for watching the Words of Encouragement podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube.